You're here in a presentation for the project Fishery Sensitivity Mapping and Displacement. I will provide you with a little bit background on the project, and then Renee will actually, which is the main part of this seminar today, is show you the web tour. So just that you know what you see in the web tour, I will try to explain a little bit more about the project in the beginning. This project has more or less two big goals. One is to improve the understanding of the spatial distribution of fishing activities of the UK vessels in the UK EZ. And then we also want to understand a little bit more about their constraints and opportunities when it comes to offshore wind farm or other marine spacious measures in the for the fishing industry. The idea is to have all these kind of evidence generated that we can inform policy, and therefore we would like to make everything publicly available, and that's why we have created a web tour which we will present later. So the project started 2 years ago, just to give you a little bit outline where we are, what we are doing, and it will finish in end of this summer in 2020, also end of September. We had our kickoff meeting in St. Andrews 2 years ago, had already our halftime meeting also last September in Edinburgh, and we will have a final meeting in London on the beginning of September this year. The main output is a web tour where we show all the maps and all the kind of evidence we generated, mostly from the two web packages 2 and 3. How we generated these maps and everything is reported in, and you can find the reports on the web page of the project, and we're also aiming on scientific publication, but this is all in progress. So maybe a little bit more in detail what we kind of did the last 2 years. There's web package 2, which I mentioned a little bit, is focusing on who's fishing where. Tanya Mendo is leading on this web package, so I will just quickly a little bit summarizing what we tried, what we do there. This web package was kind of a view, and firstly, what are all the data available, what are tools, what is actually there in the UK, what can we use? And then we just, this review you can find as well as mentioned on the project page. Based on the review, we decided the best way forward is to combine AIS and VMS data into it. I will get in a minute to what is AIS, what is VMS data, but the basic idea is to improve the understanding where the spatial resolution, where fishing activity takes place, so who's fishing where. And then we generate web layers for the web tour for it. However, this is in preparation, so you won't see it just now, but it's coming up as well. And there will be, as I mentioned, some scientific manuscript detailing the methods as well coming soon. For the ones who are not really understanding much about fisheries data or are not really familiar with it. So what normally fishing boats have to do when they are going out to sea and catching fish and want to land the fish and sell it, they have to log their activity in a fishing activity database. Depending on the size of the vessel, there are different regulations, what they have to do, how they have to do it. Usually the over 12-meter vessels also have to have a VMS, vessel monitoring system on board, which is more or less just giving us every 2 hours a ping location where they are. There are methods nowadays developed to tell us if it was a fishing activity, not a fishing activity. So we can link it to the catch, what they reported. However, from the coastal, from a health safety point, the coast guards expecting vessels over 50 meters to have an AIS on board. However, the AIS is actually, as an automatic identification system, it's more based on a person, so not on a vessel. So it doesn't have to be vessel specific. So combining this one is giving us more resolution because the AIS has actually much more higher frequency. It says signals, but it still doesn't tell us immediately what they are doing in this area. It just gives a higher resolution. And not each vessel has an AIS device or other way around. So matching it was a huge understanding, thing to do. Tanya did it, and we matched more about 50% of the vessels we managed to match and have a better understanding where these vessels have been and what they are doing there. So as we said, as we expected, for most of these vessels, we have a much better understanding now how the trip went, where the trip was going. However, for some vessels, the VMS data was much higher in resolution. Tanya is at the moment busy processing all this data and makes them wonderful, nice layers, which will hopefully also getting into the web tool soon. I'm leading on the work package 3, which is constraint opportunities, which we have a little bit more in detail now in this one. And this work package 3 has 3 tasks. One is just, it sounds easy, it's just simply making some maps of low level of fishing activity. So what we're trying to understand is which areas are areas of low conflict. So they are not as crucial important for the fishing activity than other areas, but also to identify the areas which are of crucial importance for the fishing industry. Then we also have case studies, which are kind of modeling the displacement impact of when you're, for example, closing an area for the fishing industry. And task 3 is trying to combine all of these together. We are focusing here on this today on the web tour on the outcomes of the first task of the sensitivity assessment. So we're generating the sensitivity index. To generate the sensitivity index, what we did, we went back to the project advisory group, which is part of the project, and asked them what exactly is sensitivity for you. We understood from the fishing industry that landing values per se as such is not, it's a measure, but it's not the only measure we should use. So lots of terms which came up was dependency, vulnerability, irreplaceability, these kind of things. So we tried to generate this one into indicators, and we generated in total 12 indicators, 12 indicators together in a couple of workshops and seminars together with a project advisory group. One indicator is, for example, looking mostly on business impact on the fishing fleet, how many vessels are dependent on this area to fish there, making a significant amount of their revenues in this area, and how much of this amount. How many vessels are concentrated, especially from small scale or bigger scale vessels, and how much landing values is at stake for the concentration. So the idea is, if there's a small group of vessels, but with high value generated there, they might be more sensitive or they have more at stake if this area is closed. We also wanted to know how many of the species which are catched in an area can also be catched in alternative sites. So if there's a limited amount of other alternative sites, the species to be catched, we classified them as sensitive areas. TC, also this is quota species. If there are species of high value in this area on a high fraction of the value generated in the area, again, it's sensitive for the fishing industry. And so this is more or less, then there's also some discussion which about, is how often is the fishing industry in this area? Are they each year in it, or is it a part of the nomadic fishing industry? So for the historic catch, to put that in context. So we generated these indicators, but as you may see, it's 12 indicators in total. We have 9 year groups and 9 years. So for using it for planning or, in any form of kind of making decision, it's a little bit too much. So to operationalize these, we created sensitivity layers, and I split therefore these indexes I just showed you into context providing layers as well as sensitivity layers. And to combine them, we either just more or less standardized all these indexes for each year group for each year and just simply add them up together, or we just weighted it by the number of years this indicator actually scored in the category. And then we created 3, 5, and 9 years averages of the indexes. And these layers will be then presented in the web tour when he is presenting you in a second. And just that you know which indicators were. So all the kind of business specific or the kind of vessel specific indicators were put together in the sensitivity index 1 and 2, and more or less the kind of temporal or just more general context providing indicators are standalone indicators and are also in the web tour. And I think that's from my side. I will now hand over to Renee, who will now show you the web tour, which we would like your opinion and your feedback on.
Can I share my screen, please?
You should be able now. I stopped sharing.
Can we see something?
You can see me. Yes.
Can you see something now?
Yes, I can see a map now.
Perfect. Okay, so this is the first time this has been, the website has been shown to a wider audience. So please bear in mind it's still in a stage where there's no proofreading that has been done and certain things wording have not yet been agreed. So this is the landing page for the web page, and along the bottom we have a navigation bar which should allow you to access information that I think is important as someone who works in GIS, and I often find very hard to find on other websites displaying geographic information. So at the bottom, we've got some information about how to navigate your way around the map and what the different buttons or icons mean on the web screen. It does allow you to do measurements should you so wish. There's information about the coordinate reference system that we are using and the reference units. Again, that's something that's often very hard to find on websites displaying geographic data. There's also information about and links to the base maps that we're using to underlay all of the data that FiSMaDiM project has produced. There will be information when we get the raster layers for the fishing data, and those will be presented. They are not yet put into the website. Then there's information about the different vector layers that will be shown. There is a big disclaimer here in that we do use, for certain shape files, we do take these from curated websites from the Crown Estate. And if they are not up to date at the Crown Estate, we can't be responsible for that. So if you do see mistakes or things that need to be updated, please contact the Crown Estate. It tells you a little bit about the vector formats that we will be using and will be available to those available for download. We're using standard or industry standard package files formats. So that's GeoPackage and the Esri shape file. And there's information about each of the different vector layers that will be available. There's something about the FiSMaDiM data indicators or indicator values that are going to be displayed. Angela has already run you through those, but you can look those up quite quickly through that portal. All of the colored information down here is really quite important to read. There's a quick link to the site or preferred citation for the project data. There's information about the license, and it's an open government license. So you can look at the terms and conditions of that and comply with those, please. And then there's an important README here talking about some of the limitations with the data and some of the restrictions, and a disclaimer about what external data sources. So one of the restrictions at the moment is we need to comply with general data protection regulations under EU regulations, and that means we can't show grid cells containing less than 3 vessels. So all the grid cells that you see will only will have greater than 3 vessels data displayed. Certain users already have data sharing agreements in place and they can have access to higher resolution, but only low resolution data will be available on the website. Over here we have access to the legend bar. I'm just going to shut some of these down because they open up in a so we have access to switching on the offshore infrastructure, and the offshore infrastructure sorry, by that I mean wind farms that are active, currently active and operational, wind farms under construction, consented wind farm sites, and wind farms that are in pre-planning. You can zoom into the map, drag it around, and if you click on a particular item in the map, you can actually get some information about that. So we can get information about the different wind farms and what status that they are in. this is going to look very busy, but you can select which fishery or gear group that you're interested in looking at along here. This is just for indicator 1. I'm just going to select. So this is just looking at indicator 1 for the demersal fishery. Again, you can zoom in and zoom out and drag and drop. And if you zoom into a particular area, and again, if you right click on it, you will get information about the wind farm, and you should also get information about the values in the grid cell. And again, there's needs to be some formatting, tidying up here. You'll get the values for that particular index and for that particular grid cell. Again, you can choose different layers to display, and this will be for a different fishery. So this is demersal, and we're looking at seasonal behavior here. And again, you can click on each of those grid cells, and it will give you some information about the total number of months harvested within the 10-year period that the project runs over, and the average number of months harvested for that particular grid cell. So hopefully it's relatively intuitive, and the user can easily interact with it. The data. I'm just going to zoom out again. There will be information about the different case studies that needs to be filled in when all the wording and the data has been analysed or put in a format that's easily translatable for users. Under the geodata, we've got information about the geographic data sets available. Again, there's a lot of information about coordinate reference systems, raster formats, vector formats, and the web mapping tools that we use to generate the website. And again, that's all important information for me because I like maps, but it's often very difficult to find on websites displaying geographic data. Under the drop-down menus, you'll find links to the metadata, information about the different raster layers or a raster atlas, and once we have those raster layers available, they're still being discussed about how they should be displayed within the amongst the stakeholders. This is what the vector atlas looks like at the moment. Information about formats, the different coordinate reference systems, disclaimers, available vector layers, and some information about what those layers are and how they've been generated. If you click on it, you should be able to see an image of that particular layer that can be downloaded, and it's a transparent background, so it can easily be put into a presentation. If I go back, you should be able to then either download the particular file in two different coordinate reference systems. That's ESPG 3587, which is WGS84 pseudo Mercator, or EPSG 4326, which is WGS84, which is effectively latitude and longitude. So you've got this tiled system looking at the different indices and what is the data layers that are available, and you can download those as single layers, or you can download them as an entire geo package with all the layers within one geo package, which is effectively a geographic zip file, if you like. So all the files go into this geographic zip file, and you can download those all at once. There's again information about or links to the GEBCO base map, or where we obtain the base map from, for those of you who are interested, and that's where you'll find the citation for GEBCO. Again, OpenStreetMaps is another base map that we use. You'll find more information about that. Most of you will be very familiar with it, but it's important to note if you do use it, it does need to be cited. At the bottom, you've got links to Government Scotland, Marine Science Scotland's NMPI website, which eventually will be one of the places where all of this data from the project will be lodged, and it will be also available through this data portal. It may or may not be available through the Crown Estates Open Data Portal as well. It will certainly be lodged at the CFAS's Geofish portal. So those are NMPI and Geofish, two long-term data storage portals where all of the geographic data layers will also be lodged, and those will be maintained for longer than the lifespan of this project. Under docs, you've got some frequently asked questions that, for example, how to cite and the different information about the different licenses. We've got links to the OWEC project itself at at Crown Estate. Links to the FiSMaDiM project on the CFAS website if you want to know more about the FiSMaDiM project. You can drop Angela a question through Ask a Question, and at the bottom there's information about how some of the website or the geographic aspect of the website was generated. The map itself is produced in OpenLayers through QGIS and a plugin called QGIS2Web. And eventually you will be able to download all of the information or all of the files as one big zip file or one big geo package. And clicking back there will take you back to the front page. Because there's a lot of data there, it takes a while to load up. But again, we can go back to the front end and select which indices that we want to view. And I think that's about it for the demonstration at the moment. We'd welcome feedback and other such things. So please, any questions or any feedback would be gratefully appreciated. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen.
Thank you, Renee.